Hi everybody, I'm Melinda Gallant, and I want to welcome you to another very special Cape Conversations. It is fabulous that I'm going to be talking with one of our selectmen. He is so exciting. He is young. He is handsome. Oh, he's everything you'll want. He's one package all rolled into one terrific guy, and his name is David Sampson. So come along, let's have another Cape Conversation. Oh, I am so excited to be here today outside, yoo-hoo, in this beautiful weather on this lovely platform at the town bandstand, sort of, the original town bandstand with our friends the geese right over here and wildflowers growing. And I am here with our newest selectman and youngest
current selectman,
David Sampson. David, welcome to Cape
How are
Conversations.
you? So good to see you.
So always good to see you.
This is a big milestone to get to have the Cape Conversation. I've been waiting for this.
Is it right? Oh my gosh. Well, I'm like impressed with myself. That's great. So tell me, how long have you been a selectman now total? Number of days, months?
6 months.
6 months?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Yeah. And why in the heck did you run in the first place?
Well, you've known me for a long time.
I have. You know what? I think I've known you since you were probably maybe a middle school, maybe.
Yeah,
Whenever
maybe
your
younger.
parents moved here,
Maybe
right?
younger than that. Well, we actually lived here. My parents moved here in 1977.
Okay,
I've been in Sandwich for most of my
okay,
life,
so through the
actually.
school system, I
And,
knew you. You went to school with my youngest son.
Right, and community service has been something that we've done
Yeah.
for a long time, and performing service-oriented work is something I really enjoy.
Yeah.
And I saw an opportunity to make a difference and bring a new voice to the table, and hopefully some new perspective. And I know that in the community, often people are trying to get a better sense of what's going on. How do all the puzzle pieces fit together?
Right.
And I know that I spent a lot of time piecing those puzzle pieces together to try to assemble the story, right?
Right.
So, I wanted a seat at the table. I wanted a voice to be able to participate and represent the people of Sandwich, but also have an opportunity to talk to people and provide transparency and advocate for the things that they want to do. And I think that, based on our relationship, bumping into each other here and there,
Yes,
you
that's
know
true.
that it's something I enjoy doing.
Well, I have an opinion on everything.
Yes, you do.
But beyond that, though, okay, so you wanted transparency, you wanted to represent the people, but I mean, you're a young guy. You've got a business you're working on. Your wife has a business that you're working on together. You've got a house. You've got a dog, I'm sure.
3 dogs.
3 dogs.
And
okay,
a cat.
and a cat. That's a lot of stuff, and now you've interjected not only community service, but it's also, I mean, it's political service, because whether you're affiliated as a selectman, you're not affiliated with a party. Needless to say, there are politics in all this. So how are you wrangling all that?
Yeah, so there are politics, and to be honest with you, from my perspective, it really is more about the service than the politics.
Yeah.
So it's funny because people call me a politician, and the politics come along with the job, right?
Right.
But at the end of the day, I'm really just out to perform a service, and the politics don't impact me as much. So I think
Right.
that if you're trying to operate off of politics, you're worried about keeping certain groups of people happy for certain reasons,
Right.
and kind of positioning yourself certain ways for certain reasons. And
Right.
for me, I'm just trying to do the right thing that's fair to all involved.
I see.
And I talk to people about facts and fairness. Talking to me, I always stick to the facts. I find out what the facts are, and I make the best decision possible based on those facts. It's
Right.
the best decision for the town, the best decision for myself, the best decision for one of our businesses. Whatever we might be working on, that's the way that I operate. So I really try to put the politics aside, and I think that it gives me an advantage because, my tenure may be short, but if you pay attention, I'm typically unafraid to speak what I'm thinking, because it's just what it is.
Right,
And,
right.
and we need to be honest with each other. We need to look at the
Right.
facts. We need to ask the hard questions, and we need to put ourselves in the position of where we need to be, and not just sugarcoat things
Sure.
that are going on, or perhaps hang on to the past, or
Sure.
be worried about issues that have been just because they happened before doesn't mean it has to happen again. We can make a difference, and I really believe that.
Well, one of the things that's kind of interesting to me is that I think all towns, all communities, and especially in New England when they're run by selectmen and not a town, like a mayor and an elected board of officials, which change out, which is not always a good thing. I mean, selectmen change out, but if you got a mayor and you have to vote for them, they have to run, and it's all that stuff. But I think there's a certain amount, and I think this town is into it, of it's been this way, and yes, we're growing, but it's been this way. And there are other communities that have kind of gotten around that with, I know our comprehensive, say the words.
Local comprehensive
Thank
plan.
you. That was written in 2008. I know it's updated periodically. I actually have gone in and looked at it. But what I found was it's nothing really new. It's nothing, I mean, where we are now in 2016, 8 years later, where we were in 2008, this is a totally different community in many, many ways. And I was just looking at our population, and there's 7,000 families, over 7,000 families in households, I should say, in the town of Sandwich, with 21,698 people, give or take, on any good day, right?
You're in the ballpark.
I am, and because I've been doing this for something else. And what I'm finding interesting is, though, Sandwich doesn't market itself or take pride in the fact that we have, and I'm making a statement here, as I like to do, taking pride in the fact that we have not only historical things, but we've got great businesses and events in the town, and it seems like it's not integrated in everything that are policies with the town itself. Does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does, and I hear what you're saying, and I don't disagree with you, because I think that perception is so important to everything, and branding and marketing, and these are things that I've talked about before, and people have heard me say them, but marketing what our community is and how great it is. You said that our community is different in a lot of ways, but it's the same in a lot of ways too. And I think that part of that is from people holding on to certain things that things never change, or our taxes are too high, or this is like this, so it's always going to be that way. And Sandwich is a great community. My wife grew up in Yarmouthport, and we were down in that area over the weekend, and she's lived here in Sandwich with me. We've been married for just 2 years a couple weeks ago.
Congratulations.
And we've lived here in Sandwich for a little over 3 years together. And she said, Sandwich is such a beautiful community compared to a lot of the other communities on the Cape.
Right.
And it really is true. And I think that when you're here, you don't have as much appreciation for that as you might when you go out and look at the other communities.
Right.
And being able to market who we are and take pride in who we are and really invest in that over time to make it better is really important, but it's exciting at the same time. And it requires the participation of everybody, because every resident and citizen of this town is really one of our ambassadors.
Absolutely.
And we need to be putting our best feet forward, our best face forward, and really tell folks what Sandwich is about. And it's about our town, our history, the school system. We often only hear about the negatives and put a lot of emphasis on that, when I want to see us putting emphasis on the positives, because there's so many of them.
Well, I've always said that school systems are the worst PR people in the world. People that are in the school system are terrible about touting themselves, and they should, and we should definitely do more of that. Even if it has its ups and downs, they should do more of that, certainly with a lot of the new programs that we have now. But in keeping with this thought process, okay, so now we've got all this wonderful sand that, let's hope it lasts at least 10 years.
That would be great.
That would be
but
good.
We continue to make efforts on sand retention.
And sand retention.
For lack of a better
I know,
term.
Sand retention. The SR, we'll call it the SR, sand retention. So we're doing that. And now it's come to the town that, okay, we need to put up, we need some facilities down there. And we do have visitors. And this summer, I live in the Town Neck area, and I could not believe the beach, how packed it was. There were never that many cars in there, ever. And it's because it got all the publicity of all the sand and people putting up on Facebook of them moving the bulldozers and all that stuff. So what are we going to do about that? Are we going to put in more porta potties? Are we going to do fancy porta potties? Are we going to build that zillion-dollar?
There's a lot of choices.
Okay, so what are the choices?
I think at the end of the day, the important part is we don't necessarily need to do anything, but what can we do?
Yeah.
And that question was brought up before. Town meeting 2015, money was allocated to go out and do a feasibility study of what can we do, because the building that was there when I was a kid is
No,
not there anymore.
right.
It was taken down in 2008.
Yes, it was.
So
A
we
lot
do have
happened
lot-
in 2008.
I was thinking the exact same
It's a really
thing.
busy time around this town.
So what can we do?
Right.
And I've suggested that we need to have a short-term plan and a long-term plan. And when we look at the short term, people are flocking to Sandwich.
Yeah, they are.
To come to our beach.
Yeah.
Which is very exciting. I've never seen anything like it before either. But parking is a challenge. Local
Right.
residents are upset because they want to enjoy a part of what they've invested in. I know there's been confrontations in the parking lot there because people have told me about them to,
Oh my gosh.
parking lot road rage. So how do we fix these problems in the short term versus
Yeah.
what we need to do for long term for the
Right.
town? So I've suggested in several platforms that we investigate valet parking there and double park cars. And I've gotten various feedback on that. Of course, a number of folks have found that the possible negative aspects of the valet parking. People don't want to give up the keys for their cars.
Right.
People won't like that. How are they going to get to the beach? Personally, I think this is actually one of the most elegant solutions we could have to instantly increase parking density for almost no cost.
Right.
Because at the rate that folks are paying to come to our beach on a daily rate, whether it's $15 or $20 a day, if we add in complimentary valet parking, you don't have to pay extra for it.
Right.
All you got to do is put in 5 or 6 cars, and you've paid for your valet parker guy.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And now we can take an area that's in good proximity to the walkways. You can stop there. You can take your items. You can take your family, and you can head to the beach. And when you want to come back, if you need something from your car, these same individuals can easily help you do that. And you'll never lose your car keys at the beach.
There you go.
Which I think is a big bonus.
That's
right?
true.
But I understand the thing with valet parking. I like cars. I don't like random people driving my car. But when mom and dad pull up to the beach and with the family and they're going to go to the beach for the day and they say the parking lot is full, but we'll give you complimentary valet parking, and kids are ready to get out and play in the sand, I have a very good feeling that family is going to turn over the keys to their car and not
Right.
say, we're going to go somewhere else, because if you want to go to the ocean, what's your next choice?
So, okay,
So that's one piece, right?
That's one piece.
Let's fix the parking.
all right.
Short term, porta potties or a trailer, either one works. Porta potties are the short term solution, in
Right.
my opinion.
Right.
Maybe you identify a way to put them into a little fenced area or make them a little bit nicer, cleaner, more accessible.
Well, they
regular
have
basis.
those out there. They are.
Oh, they
They're
do have them
green,
there.
and they work on solar power, and they're available at night. And I mean, I've been out west, and they're along trails, and I mean,
The porta potties.
the porta potty, and they're actually nice. I mean, they don't, and of course out west they don't use water. They, it's cleaning solutions and all
yeah.
that stuff. So, but it's like being on an airline. It's the same principle. It's not a hole in the
Yeah.
hole in it.
So you're talking about like the self-composting.
That's
type porta
correct.
potties thing. So,
Right.
So what we've looked at is using porta potties like we have today,
Right.
or a trailer similar to the one that you see at Oak Crest Cove today, or
Right.
of course the giant building. So the short-term plan needs to either be porta potties like we have today, or maybe the trailer. The trailer, it costs $100,000.
Right.
There's operating costs that are involved with the trailer, which
Sure.
are probably 3 or 4 times what it costs us to run the porta potties today.
course.
Because it needs to be emptied, it needs to be cleaned.
Right.
The stuff has to be trucked off site. So, and the other question is, how long does the trailer last? If you buy a $100,000 trailer, the one that we have at
With
Oak
the
Crest
use,
Cove is 10
yeah.
plus years old, and it's doing okay. But over the course of 50 years or 100 years,
Right.
how many trailers do you get through?
Right.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's
It
no
would be.
statistics on
Yeah.
this.
I mean, I would.
But what I do think
I mean, what
is
is the life? I mean, surely the industry would have a lifespan of something like that, right?
I
They may
guess-
not want to give it, but
Right. I think their lifespan is you should plan on getting a new one of these every 10
They-
years.
I would
'Cause that's
think.
what I would tell people
Yeah.
if I was selling them.
yeah, yeah,
But if you look at over the long term, what we're going to spend on operating costs for non-permanent solutions, I don't think it makes sense to not look at a permanent solution. And when people started talking to me about a bathhouse, especially with the price tag of what it is, I immediately said, this is crazy, no. But once I thought about it for a little while and started to assess what the long-term costs were, and further the long-term value that we would get on return of our investment, as far as making the beach more of a destination, connecting the beach with the other parking lot by Horizons, also back to the marina area where we see continued
but how can you do that
development.
with the people in between that don't want people on their beaches?
Well, you can't walk down the beach, I guess, except for between the high tide and the low tide mark.
Right.
But honestly, I'd probably prefer not to talk about that because that's a different issue.
I got
You
you.
have to take the public roadway,
Okay.
I guess, to avoid those
Right.
problems. But
You got to put in a sidewalk? Just asking.
I haven't thought about a sidewalk.
Okay.
To be honest.
I like sidewalks.
Sidewalks are great.
Yeah.
But what I have thought about is that you could easily park at the beach. You could transition to the other attractions in the area that are there today.
Okay.
Obviously, we do have a sidewalk from the marina down to Horizons.
Yeah, which is
That's already
fabulous.
there, right?
Yeah.
So putting a sidewalk down between Horizons and Town Neck might be more of a challenge. But these are things we can think about over a long period of time.
Sure, sure.
You know, I think there's no imminent need for a bathhouse. I don't think there's any decision that's about to be made about a bathhouse, but it's something to think about. And obviously, there's a lot of different moving parts that are happening right now.
Sure.
But having an understanding of what's possible and what the potential costs might be, and those costs are really driven by prevailing wage requirements for municipalities. They're not required by extravagance.
Right.
There's, if you've looked at the plans, which maybe you
Yeah,
have,
I have
I don't think
online.
there's anything
Yep.
in there that's really
Right.
that interesting or different. But you know, the challenges come into play with, you know, the positioning of the building, where it would be
Right.
in proximity to the water.
Right.
What our requirements
And it's
are
got to be
for
on.
height,
It's got to
which
be
is
on
the
stilts.
and you know where the waves would crest over a 100-year flood line and,
Right.
and those types of issues. And all of those issues have been outlined in very good detail at the last selectmen's meeting, which you can watch on
You can watch
Sandwich
on
community television.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
and I'd recommend, it's probably about an hour presentation, but it would give the viewer a very comprehensive look at exactly all of the pieces of this puzzle and what they mean. And again, this isn't, we don't need to go build this tomorrow.
No,
but it's something
that's
we
just
think
it.
about for the future.
Right.
And
right.
if we're not thinking about things,
Well, you need to. We
you
need
to think about
Yeah,
things.
that's been
You
the
know,
problem.
One of my challenges is that everybody wants things to be different, but nobody wants to do anything differently.
There you go.
It's true.
Yeah, I know. I hear you. Well, the only other thing that bothers me is not the idea of a bathhouse. If you go down to Sandy Neck, they put up a beautiful one in the spot where their old one was. It's not as big a facility as what I think you're talking about. I could be so totally
I
wrong.
honestly don't know the square footage
Yeah.
on either case.
Okay. Their snack shack everything is from the outside. They've got just a relatively small pad in front of it. They got some picnic tables, and then the bathhouse portion is behind the snack shack. But again, it's all, they rebuilt what was there. Again, we don't have that
Right.
that
So,
luxury.
You know, and this is a good point, right? So we need to think about the long-term implications of taking actions on things.
Right.
So in 2008,
When we
and
tore
I
down.
haven't looked at the details of what happened
Right.
in 2008, and that's something I'm usually pretty good at, is
Right.
I'll go back and find the videos or the minutes or whatever, right?
Right.
But we took that down in 2008. I'm not sure that anybody was thinking about what would happen down the road.
Right, in 2016.
Because if that building was still there, and I'm not an expert on building regulations, but my guess is that we could rebuild that footprint into something else.
Right.
Assuming that, you know,
Right.
the sand hadn't taken the whole building away.
Right.
But that's not a choice for us anymore.
Right. Right.
And it
right.
changes the affordability of what
Oh,
we
sure.
can do.
Oh, sure.
But you know, the parking density issue, the other thing,
Yeah.
bathhouse parking.
It takes up
There are
55
ways-
spaces.
There are
That
ways
could
to
be.
fix the parking density issue.
Right.
And also,
It would help to
just
have it
lining
striped.
the parking lot would be nice.
Having it striped. I mean, I'm from the shopping center industry. Striping means everything. And you can put places in. Of course, now everybody drives bigger cars than they used to. But you can put them in where you might not think there was a space, and you can put them in, which is even better. But the only other thing about the whole bathhouse issue is we are not good, and I should say we have not been good at taking care of our buildings. We have done deferred maintenance. You name it, it's been deferred on almost every single building in the community. And I don't think that can happen anymore. I think we're paying the price for it now. And as far as taxes, yeah, our taxes are high, but God, go outside of Boston and they're higher. So it's all relative. It's relative on what
You
you're
need
used
to.
to.
Make fair comparisons when you
Yeah.
assess our tax rate.
Right.
And I'm not saying I'm for more taxes. I'm not saying I
No,
wouldn't like our taxes to
I'm
be
sure
lower,
you're
'cause
not.
Of course I would.
Yeah.
Everybody wants to pay less
Right.
for everything, right?
Right.
But I'll tell you, one of the first things I did after I was elected,
Mm-hmm.
within weeks of being elected, is that I spent some time with our town manager and the facilities director, and we went and we toured buildings.
Yeah.
Because, like you, we don't take good care of our
We
buildings,
don't.
right? So I went and we went through Town Hall, which we all know is very nicely restored.
Right.
We went to Oakcrest Cove, which is, you know, the facilities team has taken a lot of care of Oakcrest Cove, and the history shows that they came from there. But one of the buildings that was most interesting to me that I went to was the Human Services Building.
Right.
Now, Human Services Building I have good history with, because when I was a kid 30 years ago,
Cub
Upper
Scout.
Cape Tech
Oh,
built that building where my
Oh,
father
that's
was the
right.
superintendent.
That's right.
So when
That's
I was
right.
a kid, I have very good.
I thought you did Cub Scouts there or something.
Well, we might have done. I think that was at the Little Ritz School.
Oh, okay. All right.
But regardless,
I can't remember.
You go through the Human Services building, it's in very good condition. And maybe you disagree with me. I'm not sure, but
well, it's
the
just
only
it's
issue
dated and old.
The
I
only
think
issue
that's
I
the
really
issue.
identified there, it wasn't as dated as I expected.
Yeah.
But there were some water stains on the ceiling that had just occurred from a roof leak.
Yeah.
The roof had been fixed, and the ceiling needed to be repainted.
Yeah.
But it comes down again to what I said before. We want things to be different, but we don't want to do them differently.
Right.
And in maintaining these buildings costs money.
Of course it does.
And I'm not trying to pick on anybody, but I think that the most challenged buildings in this town are the school buildings.
Oh, I don't disagree with you.
More than anything else.
Right.
The school department was in care and custody of the Clark Haddad building.
Right.
And
Long
we know
time.
what that looks like.
Yep.
But, I apologize.
Stop. You want to turn it off?
I would love to. Is that okay?
Yeah. We'll pick
You
it
guys
up.
can edit this out.
Yeah.
Sorry.
They tend to do
I thought
that.
I had that on silent. Okay, sorry. I'm just going to take a quick drink.
Okay, so where were we?
You were asking me about the condition of the buildings.
Okay, so let's take it.
You're at 25 minutes.
I'm right at 25 minutes. Can we go a little longer?
Sure, I just wanted to let you know where you were.
Okay, thanks. He's very interesting. We're yapping away here. Okay.
School buildings
School buildings. All right.
are the least
Take
maintained buildings, and Clark Haddad is where I was.
Okay, so say that.
So I think the buildings in town that have the biggest maintenance challenges are certainly the school buildings.
I agree.
And when we look historically, and certainly folks that weren't necessarily in the positions they're in now, the Clark Haddad building is one of the worst buildings that we have. That's probably a town-owned building today that we're trying to solve a problem for. But I have good confidence that with the new school system leadership, that we will get a very good picture of what it's going to take to get these buildings to where they need to be. Because
Sure.
Having emergency capital needs for building chillers and spending $30,000 a month on portable chiller units to maintain
Is
air quality
crazy
in the high
way of
school,
doing business.
it is challenging, and it's a curveball, right? We want things to be predictable. We want to know
Right.
what's going to happen.
Right.
But it takes the participation of everybody to be successful in making these changes.
Right.
So the community is, as much as sometimes I think that they find themselves challenged to participate, and I know that participating is challenging, and not everybody has the time to do it, and not everybody has the time to come to town meeting and other meetings to be heard. It's very important to do that as much as you can, and I'm very happy that a lot of the meetings that we have, our meetings are all live on television, which is
Right.
great. Town meeting is live, which is great, but you do have the opportunity to come and speak at any of these meetings
Sure.
and to vote to help determine where this goes. But if we can't assemble a vision as a community about where we want to go, how we're going to get there, we're not going to be successful in moving forward well.
Well, okay, but have the town, the selectmen, our administration, have you thought about having a charrette and looking 5, 10, 15, 20 years down the road at the community and what is needed? I'm bringing in the schools, everybody sitting at the same table with community members. Charrettes work. They did it in Mashpee. Granted, it was Buff Chase who put it together. I think I've talked about this 15 times on this show, where people, local community members come together with developers, with all kinds of people, and they hash out and they argue and they come up to solutions and plans for moving forward into the future. It's very different in Mashpee than it is here. And understanding the two communities are very different because
really
they had lots of problems up until 1980 something. So that's part of the reason why they could do what they do and how they've done it. But there's no reason why we can't use some basic tactics. Basic tactics for planning and putting the process out there to everyone.
And I think that Sue James, our chairman, has started part of that by bringing together the Board of Selectmen, the school committee, and the finance committee.
Yeah.
We had a summit at the end of last month so we could start
That's
to get
good.
better aligned. And something that I've talked about really since I started my campaign was that we're all really here in the same boat.
Yeah.
The buckets, we talk about buckets for the municipal bucket and the school department
Right,
bucket.
right.
Guess what? It's all coming from the same place.
It's all coming in the same
and
pockets.
We all need to work together.
Yeah.
And the long-term planning that you're talking about is good. I'm actually just as interested in short-term planning.
Well, I think we
So
should.
when we look at something like the long-range plan, and I've said this before, my hope is that as we go next spring to review the long-range plan in anticipation of town meeting that we get more granular in defining the goals of what we want to do during the following year and how we're going to get there. Because we need to be able to create accountability for everybody, and not in the sense of, really holding them responsible, but setting expectations. Setting expectations is important in everything you do.
Absolutely.
Because if you have the wrong expectations, you're going to be very disappointed. So if we can set expectations,
For whom though?
everybody.
Are you talking about for the administration, that they actually have
I'm
expectations
talking about
there?
expectations for everyone.
Okay.
So, I want to set expectations with you as a taxpayer. I think we should be setting expectations with administration of what's expected of them over the course of the next 12 months.
Yeah.
We want to set goals of what types of accomplishments we
Sure.
want to make and how
Sure.
we're going to actually make them. Because we can talk about goals. Goals are great, right?
I know, but if you never do anything about
we have no path to get there, nothing will happen.
Right.
And at the
right,
same time, when we
right.
go to look and evaluate our performance and see how we're doing, if we're not trying to achieve something,
Right.
how do we evaluate that?
Right.
I think it's really important.
And I think you're right. And I think most of our viewers would think you were right as well. It's really, it really comes down to, I think, a lot more communication than we've had in the past, and moving forward with a lot more communication into the future, so that everybody is talking to everybody. I always wondered why the budget for the schools went down this path and the budget for the town went down this path, and in May they seemed, now whether true or not, to collide.
Yeah.
Because
the
it
roads
was
do cross in
now,
places
right,
there.
but they do so more now than they ever did before, for sure. So, and I think that has made a huge difference. And I think you're right. What Sue is trying to do by bringing everybody in, putting everybody into the same room, is probably a good thing, for sure. And that's great for the town. But I also think at some point there needs to be that. Okay, so where is Sandwich going to be in 2020? That's only 4 years away from,
that's
true. Where are we going to be? What's going to be our road situation? What's going to be the impact of visitors? What's going to be the impact of commerce and economic development here? Is there going to be any?
Right. But and to that point, I think it's very good timing, because if we don't start to change some things, and I'll use the bathhouse as the example, what are we doing to entice more visitors to come here?
Right.
In my lifetime in the Sandwich community, we have less lodging available.
Oh, I know.
As I drive down Route 6A than we ever did before, and that same lodging has helped to solve our affordable housing problem, but it's really not serving us very well.
Right.
So when I think about something as a bathhouse, and I talk about Sandwich as a destination, and yes, it is already a destination, right? But it could be more of a destination. And I look at the renovation of the Shady Nook property over
I know.
on Route 6A.
Unbelievable.
Right?
I mean, I've only seen it from the road, but unbelievable.
It looks beautiful. I have not been inside myself. The addition of the Fisherman's View restaurant, which I
absolutely
think is
wonderful.
positioned for a lot of success here.
Yeah, and fish market.
Exactly, and the
Fish market is so invaluable.
And these are the types of opportunities we need to build on. But if we can't do things differently, we'll just have some extra stuff and be stuck in the same place.
Right.
The tourists, why not have them come here and spend their money? And Sandwich lives on all of these little small businesses.
Of course they do. It's heads and beds.
The business that we opened, my wife and I, 12 weeks ago, the
Right.
Wish Gift Company, we're already starting to plan for next year and hiring 1 or 2 people full time
Sure.
to sustain our operations. Because,
Sure.
granted, we love working every day.
24 hours a day.
Things are starting to build up, and we're starting to make those projections. So, all dollars are good dollars. So, however they're coming in, wherever they're going to support the residents of our community, it all adds up.
It does all add up. And I mean, there's businesses. There are so many artists in town. With glass studios and the glass blowing that goes on here, and local visual and artists. And there's also performing arts here now. So there's a lot of opportunity for everybody to not only make a buck, but also to tout our community as the place to be and to come to. And the good news is we do have all this history. We are the oldest town on the Cape. That's something that should help sustain all the rest of this as our underlying, our basis, our pillars, shall we say, of the community. I do want to ask you though, I mean, here you are, this young guy, you've got a beautiful young wife, and you've opened a business. And she's delightful.
She's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That's true.
Well, I like her better than you, but we're not going to go there. So
Very reasonable comment.
I'm teasing. But really though, why here? Why did you want to do this here? And what kept you here? Why didn't you go off Cape? Why didn't you go to California or someplace
it's a
else?
great question. You know,
There's not enough of you
and
here.
I don't know that there's a good answer for this question necessarily, but this is my home.
Yeah.
You know, I've been here for a long time
Yeah,
and grew up here.
Yeah.
And you know, it's personal for me.
yeah.
It really
Good.
is.
Well, and I can see that, and
It is.
that's delightful, because there isn't enough of that, you know. And you've also stepped up to the plate. Now, how do we get people like you, who are in this town, to get out and vote? Our voting and our town meetings are dismal, I think. So can we do to get them out there to vote?
So I do think that there's a lot of young people that do care and they do want to make a difference.
Yeah.
And I understand that they're busy with their jobs and their families, because we all are. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, I encourage them to take their frustration and their desire for things to be different to show up. Because
Yeah.
you have to show
You have
up.
to show up.
You have to do it. I, you know, try to leverage social media as much as I can. I have my own little email blaster list that I blast emails to people. But you know, people tell me this is so important to me. I really want it to come out this way. And I tell them, please show up, but they don't necessarily show up.
Right.
But given our form of government and how things work here, that's what you need to do.
Yeah.
And I understand that coming to selectmen's meetings and town meetings is not necessarily
It's not
a
sexy.
grand evening.
No, it's
And I
not
will
sexy.
tell you, on Thursday nights when I walk out of town hall, which is usually between 10 p.m. and 11 p.m., and I am very tired, it is not, you know, my wife is home sleeping, waiting for me. You know, it's not how I want to spend
Right.
time necessarily.
Right.
But that being said, I'm excited to work with a great group of select board
Yeah.
members. Everybody brings a lot to the table. We get along really well.
Mm-hmm. That's
We're
good.
very respectful of each other. I think it's really
That's
good.
important. Yeah.
But you know, I think the other piece that's important is to leverage the data that's available on the internet. And I know not everybody has internet access, but when you do come to the meetings, whether it be town meeting or another meeting, and
Sure.
I think town meeting is the important one.
Right.
Read up, be ready.
Right. Right.
So one of my personally, I just like things when it comes to operations and meetings to be very efficient.
Right.
Right. So if you're coming to the meeting and you haven't come prepared
Then your
and read
homework.
the documents that
Right.
are available to you,
Right.
honestly, it's very frustrating for me,
Right.
because I typically have,
Right.
because I want to be respectful of everybody else's time.
Sure.
And if people did that, town meetings might be shorter.
Right. Well, there you go. Good point. Very good point.
So
And that's what
I
we need to get
encourage
them out
folks, and
there.
There's a reasonable chance we'll have a special town meeting this fall. I think
Yeah.
that we will.
Yeah.
So, you know, and I'm sure there'll be a couple of different items on there,
Yeah.
other than the ones that I expect to definitely be there.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's an opportunity
And
to
the
do
other
that.
thing too, if you come to town meeting, don't leave right after whatever your
That
item
is
is,
very
because
true.
there are other important items that you might want to think about.
Mm-hmm.
Because I love the comments when people leave and they go the next day, I didn't know that was on there. Well, oh my gosh, I didn't know I could have voted for that again, or whatever it may be. So you, though, your wonderful store, what's the name of the
The
store?
Wish Gift Company.
The Wish Gift Company. You're being featured in a local magazine.
Yep, so we're just in Cape Cod Magazine. The October issue will be hitting newsstands on October 1st.
Excellent.
And there's a very nice write-up in there about my wife. And
Excellent.
her amazing work with what she's done, because
Yeah.
it's really her store. I
Yeah.
just help her as
Yeah.
however I can.
You're
So
the
really
gopher.
excited about
Go for
that.
this,
Yeah,
go for that.
exactly. I take
Okay.
the trash out,
Yeah.
you know,
Good for
sweep
you.
the floor,
Yeah,
things
yeah,
like
yeah.
that.
And so, where's it located though?
Right next to Cafe Chew.
Oh
So
my God,
we're
great
upstairs from
location,
the cafe,
location.
from the summer cottage. So you can come
Excellent.
and have breakfast or lunch.
Right, and then
we're
go up
often
there and then down some. You can
Right.
do the whole Merchant Square.
We could.
Yeah,
You could, and,
do
you know, that's
and
one
go
of
to the post office.
so it's, you know, you can get a lot done over there.
There you
and
go.
It's true, because we spend a lot of time there. I walk to the grocery store and get
Yeah.
groceries or CVS, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of things you can do there.
That's
it's one
great.
of the, you know, there's not a lot of places in Sandwich where you can go walk and get multiple things done.
That's true.
So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it is. It's great. Well, congratulations to you. Congratulations,
Thank you.
first of all, on being a selectman. You and I have had a couple of personal interactions I had some issues about some things. You took care of them efficiently, I will tell you firsthand. If you talk to him, he will take care of it as best he can, in every way he can. And I appreciate that. I appreciate it because you didn't do it because you knew me. You did it because I am a member of the community and that had a problem. And so you helped me out with it. And I do appreciate that, and I think all of the selectmen could take a little bit of your energy and throw it into themselves ever so slightly, with all due respect to them, because I like all of them. They're all good people. However, I love your energy and you bring a lot to the table, and congratulations again.
Thank you. I appreciate
And to
it.
the Wish Company.
Thank you.
All
Thank
right.
you very much, and we'd love
Thank
to have you
you.
stop by. One thing I do want to mention that I
Yep.
think is really important,
Yep.
and you just kind of touched on it,
Yep.
that I am available, and I'm available to talk to everybody about whatever their issue might be. So if you do want to have coffee with me, if you need to reach out to me, if there's something that you want my advice with or you think I can help you with,
Sure.
I encourage everyone to get in touch with me.
That's
And
wonderful.
my contact information is on the town website.
Right.
You can email me, dave@davesampson.com. It's very easy. Or call me at 508-776.
You're not running for president or anything now, are you?
One step at a time. And I'm trying, I mentioned earlier, I've only been married for 2 years, so,
Yeah.
baby steps.
Baby steps. There you go. There you
So,
go.
thank you so
Excellent.
much.
Excellent. Thank you.
I appreciate it.
Thank you for joining me.
I want to thank you for joining me today on another Cape Conversations. Oh my gosh, David Sampson, terrific guy, but also he's readily available. So look him up on the website for sandwich.gov and you will find him there and all of his information. If you got a problem, hey, he asked for it. He said, give me a call, so do that. And another thing I want to say is we live in a beautiful community, so let's all participate. It's great fun. Thank you for joining me, and I'll see you again next time on another Cape Conversations.